Off. Okay, everyone's been admitted from the waiting room, Caroline.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to call to order?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to call to order. It is 6:33 p.m. on January 15th. Welcome, everybody. All right. I just want to add the few other folks that I may be missing. Looks like Marnie's on. Is Mark on? My list of attendees is difficult to read.
Yeah.
Mark Morash?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have Stephanie's on? Joy's on?
Yep. Okay. All right. Just a quick question for the audience. Is there anyone recording the meeting tonight?
I am.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know, Mark.
You're welcome.
Okay. We can go ahead and get started. I've got the names down in the roll call. I think I've got everybody. I'll keep an eye on the attendees to see if anybody pops in and when Rob joins. Let's go ahead and get started with public comment. Any public comment this evening?
Yes, please.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay. On the previous episodes of budget season, the chair of this committee tasked the administration to come back with, instead of a 6% raise, a 4.5%, 4%, and a 3.5%. On Tuesday, the administration came back. The answer, essentially cut teachers and furniture. But worse than being underwhelming, the three scenarios presented seemed disingenuous. In all three, there was a section titled, "This budget keeps the following new investments." In scenario A, the new things kept were the multilingual, the 2 paras, and the firewall. So where was the $55,000 for the one-to-one proposal being cut? Was it being cut? Yes, but there was no mention of it. I watched, felt gaslighted, as next to me was the budget document from December listing the new investments. I frantically did math. It wasn't in the dollars to be cut, not in the things to be kept, literally nowhere. It was being hidden. Why is the one-to-one program so endlessly secretive? It literally says new technology investments. The scenarios preferred to cut teachers and keep purchasing computers for kids who already have their own computers. Make it make sense? Finally, in scenario C, with 6 FTEs removed, was the line item removing the $55K. Not in the new investments, but as if it was no different from furniture, as if nobody would notice. I don't understand, but what I do understand is when information is incomplete, there is no way to solve any problem, budget or otherwise, in any district. On Tuesday, nobody in the admin even mentioned special education. How was I, a random parent in town, the one who said, you know what, there's provable savings and better ways for our kids, all in one, the best of both worlds. So wonderfully enough, yesterday, an article appeared in The Hour about Wilton and their school budget titled, "Wilton Schools Proposed $3.5 million budget increase with addition of 7.6 new positions." Now look, we're not Wilton, I get it. Their budget's nearly twice ours. It's not the FTEs I want to mention. Farther into the article, they speak about special education. The superintendent says, "We believe very strongly that we can do a better job of educating the vast majority of our students here than many of the out-of-district placement schools. As important, we believe our students deserve to be educated here." The article continues, "The tuition for out-of-district centers ranges from $76,000 to $160,000 on average. At Wilton's in-house Genesis program, it averages about $41,300. So I'm asking again, per your bylaws 9120, to create committees, 1010 goals of community relations, to obtain broad community participation on ad hoc advisory committees. Please, somebody here make the motion before the board to create an ad hoc special education committee so people who know these things can work together and not only benefit the kids, but benefit the budget in our years going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Your thoughts are being heard. Okay. So real quick, I thought I would start with what I had in mind with an agenda. Oh. Sorry about that. Hold on, I thought I was sharing this. Okay. So I thought we'd start real quick in today's evening on 10-15 minutes talking about the special education. Thank you, Bill, for joining us. That is a really critical part of our budget. So we want to make sure we're all aligned there. 30-40 minutes talking about budget proposal adjustments, some other ideas, maybe looking at combining or shifting around some of the adjustments that was presented by the administrative task. We can take longer if needed, of course. And then the last few minutes aligning on what and if we're ready to present a recommendation to the Board of Ed at this coming Wednesday meeting on the 21st. So, okay. So yeah, let's get started on the special education piece. Erin, I know this was near and dear to your heart, and you had a lot of questions in the last meeting on Tuesday. So again, I wanted to make sure we had Bill here and that we went through that and made sure we're gonna be ready for next year like we were for this year.
I appreciate that. I don't know if we let Bill start. I mean, I do have, areas of questions, but I mean, it is, I don't know where we want to go with this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take questions or however the committee wants to frame the discussion.
I mean, would you prefer me to ask you the questions that I have off the bat, or do you want to explain some of what's going on? And
I think for this, I would welcome the questions, and then anything that I can't answer tonight, I'd certainly get back to you with additional information.
Okay, well, please don't feel like you're being fired at, because
I don't. I never do with you guys. So
okay, so just looking at the budget, I do have significant questions with special education. So when I look at not so much the in-district tuition and our in-district transportation, the biggest budget drivers we know are out-of-district transportation and our out-of-district tuition. With that being said, those children, are there for a reason, and this isn't to debate, where they should be or shouldn't be. They're where they need to be and they deserve an education. So I'm not, having these conversations because of that. But I see that we, increase that budget line item to $129,950. When I take that number, it wouldn't even cover one outplacement. That doesn't even involve their transportation separate. So I'm concerned that we're backsliding and we're going back to how we used to budget before, when we didn't think of students going out, right? So that's my first concern as just a Board of Ed member, because this is the first time that we started not in the red in July. So I guess my question in the bigger thing, so we're just talking about the 26-27 school year. How many students are eligible for transition program? Which would be our 18 to 22, 23 now. So who is at that cusp at 18 that could potentially go out if their parents or guardians deem that necessary or they want it, right? And of those in transition, how many are we currently serving in-house and how many are out of district?
So Erin, some of those details I can get to you, but I would also say that transition services and transition programs, as we all know, are discussed during a PPT. So I could project and give you a number, which I'm not 100% comfortable doing for this reason. There are students currently in that senior year range that might be having PPTs that are coming up where transition is being discussed or transition evaluations are being done, and there hasn't been a final determination of that. However, I tend to look at transition programs for kids that are going from Brookfield High School to other programs, whether it's Newtown or post-university or other areas, or Trumbull, as have we determined that that's a need? So I worry myself right now that I'm not giving a full answer, but I'm trying to, in that there are kids that may be going out, and again, I'm really hesitant to give a specific number, but I would tell you that if I had to give a range, it could be between 3 and 5 kids, but it may not be that many either, depending on what the decisions are at the PPT meeting.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I know it's so hard to.
And it's, so the other piece I want to bring up tonight, and many of you know this, but I think it bears repeating. The state law changed around transition services a few years ago. When I first started, and even in the last 5 or 6 years in special ed, it used to be you were, if the need existed, you were offered transition services until the day before you turned 21. Then the law changed to the day before you turned 22. So you would be exited from those services, firstly, the day before you turned 21, which could be kind of awkward because that could happen at any point during the year. Same thing with turning 22. That could happen. You're in the middle of the school year and your birthday's in February and suddenly you're being exited. So the state moved to change that law to the entire school year in which the student turns 22. So if a student turns 22 in July, they're eligible for that entire year. If a student turns 22 in June, then they are exited at that point in that school year. That doesn't specifically address your question, Aaron, but it does speak to there's a larger contingent of transition because there is now, for want of a better term, an extra year that could be built in depending on need. So there is that as well, where it used to be just 21, then just 22, and now the entire year in which the student is 22. So I just want to put that in there. But again, it's without getting into specific numbers, the process with transition is always a collaboration between the parents, the school team, the student themselves, and what's out there in terms of what their need is. And that those programs could be anywhere from, like I said, post-university where there's credits involved, to Newtown where it's a more work-based, to Trumbull where there's a business that a bookstore that they've developed there for kids working in there, and they do take out-of-district kids. So again, I'm probably rambling and giving a way longer answer than you.
No,
anticipated, but that's I tend to start floating outward of this begets this begets this. So
no, and I get that. So I mean, so we do have some students that could potentially,
sure,
right?
absolutely, and sometimes we have kids who are eligible. And within the PPT, the discussion goes around of, well, we could do this or that, or you did. And there are kids who are like, you know what, I think I'm good. I think, and the parents will say, I think we're good till, to graduate and handle whatever it is on our own, or go through an agency or BRS, or here I go with alphabet soup, Bureau of Rehab Services, which provides adult transition services for kids who have graduated. So that's not a program we would place them in. It's a program that they are eligible for once they graduate.
Okay. So
hey, Bill, sorry to interrupt, Aaron. I want to make sure, I think your particular concern, I believe, is over the line item in the budget around the tuition, right? We only have an incremental increase of 129K.
correct.
So,
And we're, we, in our budget right now, we say we have money for 32 students, but we don't, right? Because we're there. So my concern is $129,000. We would be lucky. I mean, in an ideal situation, we wouldn't outplace a child, right? And this isn't even transition. This would be our students that we take pre-K to grade 12, that we wouldn't do an out-of-district placement. Making that assumption is completely irrational because I don't think we've had a year where we didn't outplace a student. I know the outplacements have come down. I know that the administration isn't outplacing because they have nothing better to do. I know that it's need-based. My concern is we're going back to a situation where we are going to have to beg the Board of Finance for money for these students because we didn't properly allocate for them. I mean,
so
thoughtfully budgeted last year, right? I don't know how many we budgeted for. Well, we budgeted for 30 and, we had some knowns. We're already there. We started school where we are. Now I think we're at 27 out. There's no money left in that budget, right? So we couldn't cover the 30. So I just question why we're underfunding that line item, knowing that there's no way that we're not going to outplay somebody.
Or a different way to phrase it, what were the assumptions that went into the increase of 129 versus a more significant number?
Correct. And the out-of-district transportation went up 8%. I mean, I could pull the number, but it doesn't really matter. It went up 8%, but that line item's over. So are we expecting not to recoup it? I mean, I'm just confused with, we're seeing some savings, favorable savings. Okay, but I think if we're going to see savings in that line item, maybe that doesn't need to go up 8%, right?
Well, it looks like it went down 8%. The out of transportation.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
And Caroline, we have a consortium with Ed Advance where we're partnered with other districts too. That's part of the contract we have with Ed Advance.
You mean for the transportation?
For the transportation, we are with
Yeah, and we're seeing favorability in that. I'm
Correct.
Casey's seen that the last couple of months. Yeah, I mean, again, I think the biggest area we want to poke is just make sure we are covered on that line item around tuition, right? And understanding there's many different tuition options. Some are a lot more expensive than others, likely. But knowing what we know today, I mean, I'm making the assumption that you're comfortable with just, it's a small, or not too small. I mean, it's a 3.9% increase, right, for that particular line for next year.
So, I mean, I guess, Bill, I have to ask you, and I really don't, and I know the answer to it, but I have to ask you, can you if you had to outplace a student or multiple students, can that be covered with $129,950?
Well, I can give the answer that one area of tuition could be that for right now. But again, I go back to the volatility and the comfort level I have of trying to predict whether or not we would or wouldn't, or even try to put and I know you're not asking it this way, Aaron, but it's the need of the child, and you've said that, and it's the need, what the child needs, whether it's something we can do in district or whether it's something we can do out of district.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not. I mean, I'm not here to debate.
No, I know, and I know, and I respect everybody on this call, and I am very hesitant to even appear remotely argumentative.
Well, we're here, I think, we're here to ensure that we believe that that's enough money to cover the next
I just don't see.
And not,
I mean,
well, then,
so little.
Hypothetically, a typical outplacement ranges what, 70 just for tuition, upwards to 150?
Depending on the school, it could be 70, it could be 130, it could be upwards of 300,000 for someone who has major needs. You all know I don't think that way when I'm thinking of what the need of the child is. However, 129,000 for our purposes would be the average of maybe one student, maybe two, a couple. I mean, transition is far less because it involves less programming. So. And again, it's difficult to say, how many are you thinking of outplacing? And the answer is, I don't know. There are kids where we've had kids where we're considering it, and it may take the better part of a year to gather data and try functional behavior assessments and try different things within district. And the point at which, what does the child need? Can we provide that in district? Is the conversation that the team has in a PPT.
Yeah. And
you know,
and I understand that. And I think the bigger picture, right, is hopefully, with new leadership coming in, these conversations, these thoughtful conversations start happening to how do we better serve
Right.
and support our
Yes.
students.
and I would like to think, and I know this because I've always had the board's support on this, is that, there are, if I think about which students I've outplaced since I've been here, it's been very, very thoughtful, very deliberate, what else have we tried? Is this something that the student needs? It's not based on anything other than these needs have grown or these needs have changed. In a perfect world, I would say that I don't see myself in any given year outplacing more than 3 to 4 to 5 students because we have things in district that we've done.
Mhm.
I actually looked at what I've done since I've been here, and in any given year, new ones, not existing ones that continue to need what the needs are, it's been 2 to 3 with a lot of variability because kids leave, kids come, kids go, kids graduate. But the message I want to make sure that we get is when there is a need for tuition, if you're asking me if 129,000 is enough to cover it, I have 2 answers. One is no, if it's more than 1. And the other answer is I don't know that I can predict it. So if there was no need to outplace, or there was no need that year, then 129 would be fine. But we know that that's not always the case. So that there's a almost case by case where it's the volatility of special ed is difficult to predict. We all know that. It makes all of, for someone who bases in numbers and where we are, special ed is at odds with the logic of finance in terms of what the needs are. But I don't want to filibuster here, but
No, I'm not sure, Aaron, if we got all of our questions answered. I think my ask would just be that I know you've probably done it a million times already, Bill, but
Yep.
just review, obviously, your department needs and, make sure you're 100% comfortable, right, before we go to the Board of Ed meeting, like next Wednesday, with the full budget proposal.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then just another snapshot, just a different piece for our students in districts. So when we have, I think a major area where we're seeing increased need or more supports that we can't offer in district for our students that are identified with dyslexia or struggling readers. So is there are we doing anything to get some Orton Gillingham person in here or to get someone in district trained, or is there someone in district trained? I mean, I've asked these questions at CAPE. I've asked and nobody can answer it. So what do we do for that population, right, to ensure that these kids are making progress?
We are currently training 2 teachers at the elementary level that was supported by the state, given to us for some Wilson training and some OG training. I know that in speaking with teams at the middle school and the elementary school, that's something that I think we could look at within my professional development budget. There are the reading specialists that are currently not special ed, but as some of you know, I wanted to boost up the special education teachers that can also be part of that as well.
Okay, and then offering them training. Do we have student need within districts that requires Orton Gillingham trained providers, right? So we're talking about someone with, whether they're a fellow or, do we have anybody at that range that can support these kids, or we're looking at professional, outside?
We look at the training as based on some of the legal conversations I've had with directors in other districts of what is the requirement for reading specialists in terms of licensure and certification. There are conversations sometimes in PPTs about what level of training, how many hours, fellowships, things like that. But in terms of training teachers for specific needs for students within a school district, we go by what the hours are required for certification. But that does not mean that I'm not reaching out to, and I don't want to name names tonight, but I do have reading specialists outside the district that have done evaluations for us that are, that I would like to provide more collaboration with.
Okay, so I guess my question is, if there is a reading specialist, or, you know, I think we have it at the middle school, right? We have 2 working on it. I think my question is for our older students, for our middle school students and our high school students, you know, are there reading teachers that can support it or have some level of training where they can deliver the instruction, and maybe at some point, hopefully, if they're trained or we can get them trained, that we can use these outside reading people almost as to progress monitor to make sure that these kids are making progress.
We have had great success with some of these consultants who have done evaluations for us, then coming to PPTs and providing strategies and consult within that. I would also say, and again, I don't want to give a cop-out answer, but let me get back to you on some of the more specific reading pieces at the middle and elementary, because I can speak to the training we're having for special education teachers, but I'm not as familiar or as to be able to speak to the reading specialists that are not special ed.
No, I understand that. Like I said, that's just one population that we keep seeing. And
100%, I agree with you.
So no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions for Bill specifically around special education? Bill, are you going to hang out for the night on the call?
I wasn't planning on it,
Okay.
Caroline.
Why not?
That's
Well,
that's, you know.
I mean, we're a fun group here.
Why don't you want another piece of cake, Bill? Well, you know, as.
All right. Well, I asked because, you know, I want to make sure if there's any other questions for you.
Oh, and again, as everybody knows, and Caroline, you will know this about me, I am happy to answer any questions and get back to people. I get back to people very quickly. And if there's a question before next Wednesday's board meeting, I'm happy to write it out, talk it out, however the information needs to be received. And I'm not hard to find. So I'm happy to answer them. And I'm also happy to make sure that if there's anything that was fuzzy tonight, besides my screen, that I can certainly address that and clarify it once I get more information and maybe speak to some of the folks that are not special ed on the teams at the middle and elementary school and the high school as well.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, my only ask or takeaway is that, you know, you do one more, you know, trust but verify review, right, of all the line items in special ed before we go before the board next Wednesday. So
yeah. And realistically, my ask would be to look at this at a district line, tuition line, because I just don't even see it working. If we even have potentially, we know that transition's cheaper, right? We had some come back and it really wasn't that much of a cost savings, although we'll take whatever savings we can get these days. But to me, 129,000 may cover 3 transition kits, right? So that's not even including if we have to do an outplacement. So, so that's just my concern. I just would have liked us. I'm not really sure why we went backwards, but maybe I'm just not seeing something in this budget.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come to you folks this evening and answer as best I can, and happy to extend and revise my remarks as if I'm in the House or the Senate as needed and where needed.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Enjoy your cake.
All right. So let's circle back to where we left off on Tuesday. So I think, Casey, do you want to start us off and share? I'm sure you've been crunching the numbers between then and now again. So Do we
Yeah.
want to ground us back to where we landed there, and then maybe dive into, putting together a potential go forward plan for the board?
Sure. Do you want me to, can I share my screen? Would that be all right?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
All right.
I don't know. I'm going to stop. I don't know. I need to stop.
I don't think you have to stop. I think mine goes over yours, and then if I stop sharing, whatever you were sharing would pop back up. I think that's how it worked the other day, but okay. Okay, so here, okay, you can see it, right? So here's scenario A. I do just want to address very quickly, and I know it's not typical to address public comment, but I do want to mention it because I think there was a question on the transparency of the Chromebook one-to-one program. I want to be super clear that with it not being listed in this top table, it was certainly not a desire, an attempt, or any other nefarious, action of trying to be anything but transparent. It is simply a mistake on my part in crunching numbers several different ways, multiple times when we were initially putting these options together. The Chromebook, was in each scenario, and so it didn't make it into this little keep box at the top, which was copied for each 3 scenarios. But that is why it is very clearly highlighted, even in blue, that it is added in the second scenario and the third scenario. So I just want to be super clear on that. But there is some good news, and as you know, because I did share it with you, and even even in the version that I just shared with the committee members, I think an hour maybe before our meeting started, there was also a typo in that as well. That has since been corrected. So all of these things will be corrected in time for the Board of Ed presentation on Wednesday. But this scenario, we got some additional good news after speaking with the town finance director about the pension contribution. I am going to bring that number down some, about $38,000. And so that has been included in this known decrease bucket. So that has increased, which is great news. And so the reductions to instructional supplies and books and things of that nature that, are directly tied to, teaching and learning, those reductions were decreased in a sense. So that's where, that money was put back in. It wasn't enough to impact any FTE changes, but I did do that to the instructional supplies and books.
Yeah, it was just so people have reference. It was previously 109,000. Now it's just a decrease of 77,000.
Yes.
So that's
thank you.
Good news.
Okay, so other than that, there were no other changes to these areas, but I do want, because the board, rightfully needs to know what FTEs these are impacting. Okay, so this first detail, scenario A, the 4.0 FTE in the teacher unit would be 1 FTE for the home economics teacher position, a 1.0 FTE in the library media specialist position, a 1.0 FTE in the world language teacher position at Wisconsin. The first 2 are at the high school. This third one is at Wisconsin. And then a 1.0 world language teacher position at CLES. What this essentially does is it does eliminate the world language program in the elementary school and in 6th grade. So world language would become a 7 through 12th grade program. It also does impact slightly by about $1,400 instructional supplies line for that elementary school location. Erin, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a question on this scenario. So my question is, like, at the high school level, if we're going to cut this home ec teacher, which kids can't get into that elective, are we just going to eliminate that program completely?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting.
And so part of the reduction to instructional supplies, there's about $15,500, I think, for instructional supplies and other materials related to the home economics program.
So I think what I'm going to ask you to see if you can reach out to Mark. I would love to know how many kids are actually enrolled in that program and how many kids have been denied access to that program over the last couple of years.
Sure, that's a great question, and he'll be happy.
Because I know it's a pretty popular one, and we just actually were buying stoves and stuff for there or something last year.
Those have been pulled out of the budget. There was some maintenance to be done to convert an gas to an electric stove. So anything that was related to any of that was pulled out of the budget, and it's in those other buckets of expense buckets.
Yeah, and I think Mark is the only one that can actually speak to that. So I mean, I don't know. And then this library media specialist at BHS. So that library will still be staffed if a kid needs to check out a book. I mean,
there are 2 library media specialists at the high school. NEASC does not provide, give any, specific student to teacher ratios for the library media program. They just say it should be adequately staffed, right, in order to run the library. So since there is no strict guideline on that, that was one place we went. You'll note that so great questions, and I will get that. On the home economics program, what I do know, Erin, is that only 18 students at a time can take that course. I don't know how many sections run each year, but I know that it can't exceed 18 students at a time, just due to the nature of the program and the equipment and stuff like that. But I'll get more details on that.
And then, obviously we're looking at these world language. I think my question is, did we fill this WMS position? We had an open teacher position from the transfer so is that the position we're talking about cutting?
I don't want to talk about people, right? I want to just veer away from who directly would be impacted.
So
we did fill that position. That is correct.
So that world language position is only affecting 6th grade at WMS. Okay.
Correct.
And then the one world language teacher at CLES, I was under the impression they had 3. What's happening to the other 2?
So there's 2 world language teachers at CLES.
Okay.
The other one FTE would no longer be a world language position, but the schedule would need another specials class just in the rotation to make the schedule work. So that 1.0 FTE would be reallocated for another specials program. Don't know what that would look like yet. That would be, discussions of the administrative team, and particularly at that building.
How about math facts special?
Right? So there could be a number of ways that would be used, but we did want to retain that 1.0 FTE to be able to provide that flexibility to make the scheduling work. But it would not remain a world language FTE, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Let's move on. Yep.
All right. So same thing up top. And I'll just get right down to the additional. So again, in blue would be the new reductions that are layered on top of scenario A. In this case, it is, we did, as you recall, in last year's budget, with the reallocation of those 7 FTE positions of the instructional coaches, we added an interventionist position at Wiskaneer and an math interventionist position at CLES. This would pull those back out of the budget. Again, not ideal. None of it's ideal.
I think that's actually horrifying that that's the best we can come up with, is to pull math interventionists who should be driving remediation for students. I have to tell you, as a board member, I think that that's actually horrifying, because I can think of quite a few positions that are not student facing that I think we need to start looking at.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. Do you want to get to the next one, or?
And our math test scores are so bad, and we're going to cut the 2 people supporting them.
Well, no, I don't think it's ideal to cut anything. It's just, None of the options are good.
Yeah, but Rob, cutting FTEs and cutting FTEs that are providing direct instruction and remediation to students is absolutely horrifying. That's like cutting a
No,
class.
I know they told us it was going to be ugly. Remember they
So
just
let's look through the rest, and then I agree we need a lot of discussion around what the potential will land at.
Okay. So scenario C is a 3.5%. Again, when up here, when it says that it exceeds the required reduction by about $7,400, we would obviously find, areas, instructional supplies or maybe some PD to add back in, but it was getting really close to when I had to present this, so I didn't go to that detail, but that does leave us with some room. This also does add back just the clubs at Wiskaneer, not all the sports, but it does add back the after-school club programming. And the FTEs associated with this are all the same that you saw in scenarios A and B. It also does remove a 1.0 administrator. That would be the director of curriculum and instruction. And 1.0 would be the other 1.0 of the teachers would be the new ML requested position that would, be full-time at Wiskaneer, allowing our current ML teacher to be full-time at BHS. That's the only position that, there is no current staff member in at this time, so it would not be impactful to anybody currently employed in Brookfield. And that's why, that's it.
That makes sense.
So any questions there?
So how do we want to approach kind of aligning on what the final combination could look like, right? And Casey and Deb and all the folks on the team, appreciate the thought behind this, sharing some of the detail. And I know you guys are obviously open to all of our thoughts, questions, and opinions on things. So, I'd love to come to a compromise and an agreement, right, on how to move forward. Ideally for the board meeting next Wednesday. How do we start to approach kind of having this conversation? And my only concern, Casey, and kind of keeping up the PDFs that you have up is, I've created kind of a list where we could potentially mix and match some of the suggestion changes, right? And see where we land. I think
sharing, I can.
Yeah, do we want to go that direction? I'm open to feedback. I haven't been through this process before, so.
I think, when we talk about positions, right? So what is the middle school and the high school going to do without a TESOL teacher to ensure that our MLL students are actually getting the education that they rightfully deserve? So, obviously that's my concern as a board member, right? We wouldn't be asking this position if they had hours, right? I think we're talking about children that are coming that aren't speaking English. They are being put in classes that are spoken in English for the most part. I know we're seeing that at elementary. What are we doing for this student population? We know that their test scores aren't great. We know that they're not making goal. And we know that if we're not supporting them in a language that they can understand, how are they accessing curriculum if we don't give them somebody?
Debbie, I don't know. To that.
Great. So, very good question, Erin. You're absolutely correct. We have between the two school buildings right now about 60 students that are being serviced by one provider who is going between two buildings, which is why that was definitely a priority position that was included in these, the recommended, budget by the superintendent and the team. Right. So we do agree that that is a priority position, and it's why that I guess it was up there in scenario 3 or C. What we are doing currently is really trying to support teachers with differentiation in Tier 1, which is their core instruction, to help them with some skills to differentiate, to provide access to the students. Nikki Galvez, the administrator for World Language and TESOL, has been providing some professional learning at the various schools and with teacher teams to help support that. We've also, through title money, have recently, I've reallocated some funding in the title grants. And through Title I, I was able to, with Casey's support and guidance, we were able to figure out a way to get some money to support a tutor, an ML tutor. It's part-time, like 15 hours a week. So it is difficult to find somebody bilingual Spanish for 15 hours a week. It is posted. We are looking for someone, and that person would be over, at Wisconsin, so that to provide some support. So it's not a great answer, but that's what we're currently doing. We will continue those efforts. Nikki's working with the TESOL staff to also be creative with, how they're doing push-in and pull-outs. But yes, 60 students between two buildings is a lot, which is why it was included in the 6% budget proposal.
No, and I understand it. I mean, I just have to think of it as a parent, right? My son learning, all his academic classes in a language that he would put him in a Spanish class. He's not going to know what they're saying to him, right? So, I think we have to change our seat and think of what these kids are facing. So, that's just a significant population. And I think that we're doing them a disservice.
So I'm going to share my screen for a second. Let me know.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Caroline?
Of course.
Please, thank you.
Where's your glasses, Rob?
Yeah, I needed them for sure. Reading glasses. Those days are here.
Okay. So Casey and team, I kind of took the list that you guys had provided in some of the different scenario options, right? And the totals associated with them. And then this was for my own mental processing. I was kind of mixing and matching, right? In areas where we may not want to make cuts, we may have more opportunity. And so, the couple that I put together quickly, get us closer to the 4% increase mark, which, what's wrong, Erin? Oop, are you okay?
Yeah, I have a kid that's, trying to have a
you were waving at me.
Sorry. Oh, no. No, it's just, it's an 8th grader.
So, the couple of scenarios that I just tried to put together real quickly, landed us closer to the 4% increase mark. I think, all of us are most comfortable, right, going in with everything that we had anticipated, but I do think there's potential for workable scenarios that'll put us at the 4% mark. We want to be cognizant of the new leadership coming into role, right? They're going to come in and hopefully have some grand ideas. We are very hopeful. So it puts us in a position to be able to pitch some alternate, investments ideally for the coming school years. So
Casey, I'm sorry, Caroline, quick question.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What does a season look like without sports? Do we know how many kids participate in the after-school sports? Number one, it's is it like a reapplication to are they part of the CIAC, or the middle school is not part of that?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. Robert, I can definitely get you the numbers on those after school sports.
I know it's quite a bit because they can only take a certain amount and a lot are cut. My concern too is that we're looking at one school, right? We're not making cuts to this magnitude to any other school. And I think that we should be, if cuts have to be this deep, right, and we're affecting them, are these sports available in Park and Rec, which they might be? I don't know.
Yeah, they are. Erin.
Okay, so I don't know, like field hockey and stuff like that. So there is an opportunity for them to play sports, which is great, right? My concern is, has anything taken place as far as conversations on if we do in fact shut programs down, right? We're not paying for programs. Has anybody thought of how to maintain these programs by parents either paying a small amount every 8 weeks for their kids to join these programs, so we can still offer them something, even if it's a cost to parents? I mean, we pay, I know at CLES, if their kids want to do anything after school, it's through Park and Rec. You're paying directly through Park and Rec. I really think if this is something that we're going to consider, I think that we also need to consider this population and give them options to still do something. And I also would hope that we're going to keep the investment that the BEF, invested a ton of money in our digital music lab in this live morning announcements, that those at least continue. And that money wasn't, spent.
Yes. I'm really glad you brought that up, Erin. The WMS Morning News and the yearbook, those are the only two clubs that are maintained throughout, because you're right, that was an important investment. And
the music lab, is that used just during like the school day?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that what the BEF, the teachers brought forward, right? They went through the process, they funded it. I want to make sure that we're being thoughtful about what we're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I think your point is well taken too, in finding other ways in order to fund some of these programs, not through the operating budget, obviously.
Right.
But I think for the purposes of, I don't know that we would be able to put forth a plan in time for, literally the next 5 days on, yes, this is how we're going to do it and this is going to work, especially if it's going to require, parents paying or, a pay to play type situation. Certainly all those things are available and could be thought of and considered. But I think for the purposes of the board and the timing of needing to make a decision on whether or not it will be funded through the operating budget, I would be hesitant to say, well, we're going to take it out of operating, but we are guarantee you they'll still have, access to some of these activities. I don't know that I could guarantee that before you would have to vote on the budget. That's all.
Right.
But
Right.
I after school programming, I think is so important. And both the clubs and the sports, equally so. I think there are, especially in middle school, I'm sure there are plenty of students who, on every day, every Wednesday when they have that activity after school that they really look forward to. Wednesday is the easiest morning, to get up and get ready and get on that bus and come to school, to keep them motivated to stay throughout the day. So I we value it very, very much.
Right. And you worry about the, the emotional impact to it too.
Absolutely.
Emotional impacts. I mean, these kids, I have one at Wisconsin, right? I pick them up. There's tons of kids that, come out the front door, what they're there for, I don't know. But I really think that middle school is a tough time for kids to begin with.
Absolutely.
And I also think that we are going to get quite a bit of pushback from the community that we're cutting at one school and punishing 3 grades, and we're not doing anything anywhere else. So,
yeah, I think that, that definitely was an area that I thought we should try and hold steady on for sure. I think there's probably a lot of, community impact, right? With looking in that area. So,
have we, have we thought outside the box to see if we could get community coaches? Is it because we're paying people to coach these sports teams? Is there a parent, that has their they've passed their volunteer screening, that would be willing to coach it, right? Would that bring the cost down? Could it bring the cost down? What would that look like? I don't even know what we're paying for them. So.
Yeah, these are all the stipend positions in the teacher's contract. And if it's all listed, we went through that in negotiations. We're still actually looking at that. But yeah, these are all stipended positions. They're not always necessarily filled by teachers. I think in the middle school, many of them are. But that is exactly what drives the cost. Yep.
Okay, can you provide at least this committee with the stipends?
Like the stipend for that make up this particular
Well, the
amount?
stipend or the stipend positions. Can you just put that in the budget document?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think I've seen it because I did para, not teacher. So I don't even know what we're paying.
Gotcha. Yep. I'd be happy to.
So, you have any thoughts, Rob? How do we want to
I've
approve?
got a lot of thoughts. I just, I don't like the cutting of the positions. That's all.
No, I am
I know.
aligned to that. Then no.
I'm not saying you do. That's just my thoughts. That's just where I'm at. It's a tough one. That's all.
I mean, I would be more comfortable presenting, a 4% increase to the town, right? To the Board of Selectmen, to the Board of Finance, right? Going from last year to this year. So I don't know how it works where, I mean, obviously, as the Board of Ed, we don't select the specific areas of impact. I mean, we do, I think we lean on the administration to try and pick areas where there is least amount of impact, correct? So.
Well, this big of a, I think, drop is, it's just a very big ask, or should I say this big of an ask is a very big impact, I feel. So that's the.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, are there positions that are not as student facing as some of these? Or is it the end all be all that we're just going to, get rid of? There's people that fought so hard, right, to get Spanish here. I mean, I think it started before my kids were here. That program, I don't know, if that's where we're going, then that's 3 positions right there. But I think, are there positions within districts, whether, do they have to be teaching positions? You know what I mean? Could they be people working in other things? Have we looked at any administrative positions, right? Our secretaries, our clerks. Have we looked at, some of our people who are paid maybe in title or stipend positions, and they could be reallocated to maybe this multilingual teacher that I think we have to try and preserve. I mean, I just don't know. I had someone message me today. They're like, why do we have 2 band teachers at Wisconsin? I'm like, well, I think a lot of kids take band, but like now when we start to see these cuts, this is where we're all going to start. Everybody says something. We've been hearing, the dean of students for years, right? What, have we looked at that position? Have we looked at, I know that special education uses the IEP compliance person. We're 99% compliant. We're paying $166,000 a year to 2 supervisors that should be doing IEP compliance. Could she be reallocated? You know what I mean? Could that position be looked at?
Yeah, but the new superintendent also has to make a lot of these decisions too, don't forget. So it's a tough.
No, I get that, but we're forced with not having leadership. We're not having somebody leading right now. And we have to present this to the town. If the board, if they axe it, they axe it. We're still going to be cutting this. But these are thoughtful conversations. And once this stuff gets cut, we're not getting it back. That's historically how it works in Brookfield. You cut it, you're not getting it back.
Well, that's my biggest concern with a lot of this stuff. So so it's that's what makes it such a big ask. And it's, again, I said it before, it's really not fair because we got hammered with this whole insurance thing and whatnot. So, and again, I know we might still receive good news on that, but still, it's just not fair. So,
and I'll just comment. I wanna reassure you that all of those conversations have taken place. We as a whole administrative team, and then myself and Debbie and Vonda, nonstop really over the last month have evaluated all of those areas: the secretaries, the nurses, the paras, the custodians, IT techs, mechanics, every single group. We did talk about the Dean of Students position at Wiskaner. We spent quite a bit of time talking about that actually, and the consensus by everyone really, on the administration was that really is a critical role in that building. And so we did not want to put that forward. We do not think that would be an area that could be reduced. So while all the analysis and conversations haven't taken place, at these meetings, I assure you that diligent that work has taken place, and we have looked at all of those. I don't know if that helps, but I just.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I'm really having a hard time looking at, we would rather sacrifice teachers than try and come up with another scenario. I mean,
so we would rather not, right? Like we
I understand. I understand that, right? But we put forward a 6% budget, which is not going to pass. So realistically, we don't have a choice. We have to cut. But I just think we need to have more thoughtful conversations around where we could potentially cut that isn't going to cut teachers. Unless you're going to start eliminating programs, right? So if we're talking about a Spanish program at pre-K to grade 5, then that's 3 teachers right there. But there's 3 other people, right, that are teachers. And I wonder if we can make that up in other positions that are teaching our kids.
So how do we have those conversations? Do we need to have more conversations? I mean, I'm just looking at the calendar, right? We have Friday, Monday, Tuesday before we're supposed to have another board meeting to review this. So how do we usually proceed forward historically?
I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's normally just brought forward, right, with potential cuts, and it just gets voted on. It's not, but I mean, I think if it comes to the board in this, in these 3 scenarios, we're going to spend all night there.
I don't suggest we come with 3 scenarios, actually. I think we should come with one recommendation.
See, I honestly.
I'm with you on that, Caroline. I agree with that.
I think we need to have a special meeting of the full board to start talking about these scenarios before we even have our board meeting on Wednesday. That would be my suggestion.
We can do that. I mean, I'm totally fine with that. Joy, I see Joy. Please help us out here. All your experience.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I know that's not really allowed. Well, I guess you're the chairperson, so you can say whether it's allowed or not. But yeah, we can have a special meeting. That's something I would recommend so that we can all talk about it and discuss it, and come up with, almost like, proposals that we would like, because I think that we need to have these important conversations together as a board. Before Wednesday, before we put something on the table to vote on.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So is that the action coming out of today's meeting? I'm fine with that, but that's the action coming out.
Well, the problem of it is, I mean, we have to notice it because you can't, so Monday's a holiday.
Yeah, of course. So Monday doesn't count for notice?
Well, I mean, if we could get it noticed tomorrow, but I think, I think Lisa's away.
Or we just
We
have
can-
that discussion on Wednesday
If
and
you
then
need
we
something
schedule.
posted, we can do that.
We do, yeah, we can post, as long as we post it, the town closes at 1 o'clock tomorrow. It's Friday, so we just would have to have the meeting posted by 1 o'clock tomorrow. In order to warn for Tuesday, because, yeah, the offices are closed on Monday as well.
Well, I mean, if we warn it tomorrow, if we do it tomorrow, we couldn't meet on Monday, even though town offices are closed. I mean, it's posted. It needs 24-hour notice to be posted.
Yeah, so
What if
it's,
the board wanted to meet on Saturday? Is that allowed? I don't know.
I suppose, I think, I'd have to.
I don't know. I have to read Robert's.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure with the holiday, to be honest. I didn't know how the holiday would take effect for this.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we can't have a special meeting, then I just say, then we're going to end up having this meeting on Wednesday, and I don't know what the agenda looks like. Rob? Is it light?
I mean, I think it'd be good to have a focused meeting before the board meeting. I'm aligned to that. I mean,
Yeah, I think if we wanted before 1 o'clock, I think like Casey said, before 1 o'clock tomorrow, we should be good for Tuesday.
or Monday evening.
Well, I think, maybe we need to think about calling, we can call an emergency meeting too. And the criteria behind that is a lot less as far as.
Monday evening if need be.
What'd you say, Rob?
I said yes. If Monday, you said Monday evening, right? Even though it's holiday, if need be, we can meet Monday.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think an emergency meeting, there's a special way around that.
Right. No, that I'm not too sure about.
Or we have the deliberations or the discussion on Wednesday at the board meeting, and then you could say the motion is not a motion, but it's possible action. And then we're going to set up a special meeting after Wednesday
Yeah, you can do that too.
to make the decision, because we have till the end of January. I think we have to the 28th, don't we?
It has to go to it has to go to the town on the 1st.
Right, so we have till the 30th.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, realistically, we probably have till 4 p.m. on the 1st. I hate to say it. But
I mean, it's something I really
not that
want to
wanna
rush.
go that long.
Do we have all the information we need to have a productive discussion in a special meeting?
I mean,
February 1st is a Sunday, so is it due February 2nd?
No, I believe it has to be before the end of the month, so I would think probably, in my mind, I have January 30th, because that's the last business day of the month. But I can double check that tomorrow, but.
Yeah, I mean, my only hesitation, obviously these cuts have to be talked about. My only hesitation really is this special ed budget and how are we paying for outplacements next year?
Do we have the other information we need to have a productive discussion in a special meeting before next Wednesday?
I mean, it seems like we have the biggest bucket is really the cuts. I mean, unless there's other areas that we're missing that we can, cut from, it's those positions. It's those positions that are concerning. So, but
Yeah, and I think the other things that we've been looking at, right, are areas that keep going up. So, can we have a detailed description of extended duty and overtime? Like those buckets, and then professional services, other professional services, like what do those buckets look like?
Yep.
And we can certainly, Casey and I can also get the admin team together again, give them some of the feedback from this meeting, some of the, ideas and thoughts that have been expressed, and see what else, we can come up with as well, right?
No, and I actually, I just wish we had time, right, to ask the CLES parents or actually ask Brookfield what their thought process is on eliminating an entire program that we've had for, I don't know how long the Spanish program's been here.
It's been a long time.
I also worry about, so sixth grade, it's more, from what I remember, it's more of like a rotation, right? Or they have it.
Yeah.
So then what happens to their schedule?
Mhm.
And I'm only asking because these kids seem to have double UNAH, which I'm not really, like, what's going to happen during that block for those sixth graders?
Yeah, so right now, the way it is, Erin, when the program was first initiated, it was really a FLES program with, something like 150 minutes per week for each grade level in terms of the program. So it was a pure FLES program. It was more than just language exposure. It was really meant to provide actual proficiency, right?
Yeah, so I remember conversational, right? We're going to use conversational Spanish. And I have asked, right? I don't have, my kids aren't little anymore, but I ask what's going on at the, we're watching Coco Melon and we talk about families and they say,
I don't remember what year it was, but it unfortunately has changed, right? So it's evolved since the origination of the FLES program, which did take a lot of time, frankly, out of social studies, especially at Wisconsin in sixth grade. So it's now a special. So it's one of the six specials over at CLES, or one of the in the 6-day rotation, I should say. So in grades K through 5, the students get, Spanish about, once every 6 days, right? In 6th grade, there is every other day, there is more of that, it's like a UNAH as well, or it's kind of a weird schedule, and certainly, Mr. Renda could speak to this much better, but there's about 22 minutes, at least on paper, every other day for Spanish, and then for social studies. So that 44-minute core is split between the Spanish teacher that's pushing into the social studies class. So,
so that makes a lot of sense now that you say it, because it's been a couple of years. So realistically, it's not going to impact their schedule. They're just going to get 44 minutes of social studies.
Or right, another thing which they're working on anyway, which has nothing to do with the elimination of the Spanish program, is looking at the 6th grade schedule to be able to afford more time for math, right? And in a way, it'll be less time for ELA, but still more than 44 minutes. Right now, they have a double core of ELA, so they have around 80 something minutes for ELA in 6th grade. So we're looking at the schedule in 6th grade. The curriculum people and Mr. Renda are looking at hopefully coming up with a schedule that really affords more math time, because 44 minutes of math is really not ample.
Okay, no, and thank you for that. I think a double core of literacy, I can tell you for my boys were not real thrilled with it. So it would be awesome if we can make it, a core and a half, and then take that other half and give it to math.
Correct. Yep. So that's what we're looking at, more creative scheduling for the 6th graders. And that's regardless of whether or not Spanish, is there or not there. We're still looking at doing that because it's something that needs to be looked at. But I hope that clarifies at least what the impact in terms of what the Spanish K-6 program looks like.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just see Joy's hand up. So hold that thought, Rob. Sorry.
Yes, no, go ahead.
Deb, if you can just answer this question, I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm just asking if it's possible. At the high school, the department heads, could those positions be cut, and then a teacher could hold a stipend position for that work?
Could it happen? I guess we could. There would be, I know you didn't ask for my opinion, but, as we're looking to move forward in terms of really you know, creating the vision that we have for our learners in terms of teaching and learning. Curriculum people are essential, and also administrators in terms of being able to not only drive the curriculum work, but the data informed, kind of work that we've all talked about that we really want to see, even enhanced upon. So I would not recommend going in that route, but yeah, certainly that's something that I guess could happen, and there are other creative ways to maybe think about that. But those positions also evaluate a number of staff, and are responsible obviously for helping to again enhance teaching and learning experiences, curriculum, instruction, assessment, all of that, and they really drive that work in their leadership roles.
I actually have a question too, I just looked at the budget document or our question document. And I mean, is there any way to look at this high school? I mean, look, if they want to cut home ec, I mean, it is what it is. But we have a ton of electives that we didn't have enough students to run. Sociology 1, Sociology 2, advanced placement. I mean, I don't even remember what it was. It was like some video something, right? It was 4 sections of music production. Like, have we looked at electives that our kids aren't taking? Like, we don't have enough kids and we're not running the programs. Have we looked at those where it would be minimal impact?
Yeah, when we
don't want it.
No, all great questions, right? This is not easy work, right? To try to come up with a budget that honors where we know we need to be as a district, what our vision should be in terms of the experiences for learners, and trying to marry that with, the resources that you need to do that, right? So it's certainly not easy work, for sure. We did ask the the building administrators to, when we came to meet as an admin team, to come forth with their suggestions in their building, right? So that was not something that was on the table or suggested, by Mr. Belanda in terms of electives, other than the home economics program, which I believe, as Casey mentioned, serves about 18 students, in the class. I don't know how many sections. It might be 4 sections. I don't recall.
I don't know. I know kids can't get into it, right?
Yeah, well, there's a certain amount of space, right? I mean, it is quite frankly a program that has phased out in many high schools that are facing similar types of unfortunate, tough decisions to make in terms of what we need to do and what programs we need to offer.
And cost as far as supplies and stuff. I was actually really surprised that when we ordered food and stuff for it. So I was surprised with how much was going into that. But it was just something, I mean, we have a lot of electives. I mean, have we thought about trying to, obviously we want to give these kids as many opportunities as we can, but we didn't run 10 electives this year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? What are those teachers doing during that time? If we could have run those, right? Who would have been teaching them? And now that we aren't running them, where are they?
And Erin, we had, I don't want to say a similar conversation, but something kind of around that, vein last night in Cape with the presentation on the Brookfield High School Program of Studies, right? So when they prepare the program of studies, they do consider a lot of the same questions that you're asking, because again, they need to also balance the courses that they're offering, not only with the, the diverse needs of our learners, but also the diverse interests, right? And to try to marry that with, the human resources that we have, right? In terms of numbers of preps, right? At the high school, a prep means like number of separate and distinct courses, right? So if you teach a separate and distinct course, like let's say three or four, it becomes more time consuming in terms of the planning piece, right, for distinct courses. So I believe the number of preps really, we try not to have it exceed 4, and that's contractual. A lot of teachers volunteer to teach, and have additional prep because they are so passionate, interested, and they want to be able to offer those courses for kids. So they really, as they're planning the program of studies, the leadership team at the high school really does try to take into consideration all of those variables. Mr. Belanda is scheduled to come on Wednesday to present on the, Brookfield High School program of studies. So if there are some specific areas that you want him to touch upon, just briefly, right? Because I'm sure he could talk about it for 2 hours. I don't know that you'd want him to, because then we won't have time to talk about the budget. But certainly he can include that in his presentation.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I mean, look, we're trying to realistically, none of us want to cut this, right? But we have what we realistically can do and what we can responsibly do. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, we're, in this situation. So
yeah. And we have to really balance, right? When we talk about student facing, situations, right? We always think of classroom teacher to students, right? And that is the most intimate, right? Student facing position you can get pretty much in a school, right? In terms of the teachers. But there also are other, when we think of student facing, there are other positions that are student facing in the sense of creating the infrastructure of what's happening in those classrooms. And that's key and critical to ensure that we have meaningful and relevant and appropriate learning experiences. So we obviously need to be mindful, right, that the infrastructure, we can't have, too many people there, right, because we have to be conscious of these things, but we have to have the right amount and the right people really leading that infrastructure to make sure that then the teachers that are, student facing actually have what they need to be successful in their role, and then the students can be, successful in their roles. It's kind of like you just need that synergy, and that's really what we strive to be. And we just don't want to decimate infrastructure that will really impact the student learning experiences that you don't necessarily see, right? But they're there. And it's important, right? Because you don't see curriculum, you don't see, what goes into creating curriculum, instruction, and assessment. That's the behind the scenes work, but it's critical for what's actually happening in the classroom, and in terms of what the teachers need in order to be successful, and what the students then need in order to be engaged and successful in learning.
Yeah.
So we need to have a delicate balance, and it's hard.
And I think, I have a question about like the high school not filling electives anyways. I mean, we have our senior kids having senior privilege. I mean, I have a kid home at 11 o'clock every other day. Like if he was in school, he would have had to take those electives. So would those classes have filled up? Do you know what I mean? I mean, my kid for 91 days of the school year is going to miss 2 or more periods. He can't miss 10 school days without a doctor note. So I don't know how this happened. I really hope, like, as a district, we move forward and offer these kids opportunities to either volunteer in the community, get involved in something they may want to do, in their careers, what interests them, what they're passionate about, maybe do a senior project like other schools do. But we are doing these kids a major disservice because my son coming home and taking a nap at 11 o'clock is doing nothing to prepare him for college.
So I don't know if we can have any more discussion this evening. We could probably have a lot more discussion this evening, but I don't know if we can get any closer to the end point. So, I mean, I'm aligned if we feel, that we want to warn and have a special meeting earlier next week prior to the board meeting to talk about this together. I mean,
yeah, we can, but depending on what comes out of those discussions, like someone's going to have to get together with Casey and with Deb, but then like, are they even going to have, the problem of it is that all this documentation or whatever has to actually be provided publicly for the board meeting.
Well, yeah, I like what Joyce said also. I don't want to rush, like Caroline, even if we did present it like the scenario based that we have, and then discuss it on, Wednesday, and then maybe have a special meeting after, we can do that as well. That is a possibility.
I mean, there's another finance committee meeting, I think, Casey, already on the schedule for next Thursday, correct?
Yes, we did have that as a placeholder if it was needed. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
So you
mean,
have that too.
honestly, after the meeting on Wednesday, if we have to meet every day until the budget has to go in, until we're in a place to do it, that's what we're going to have to do. Unfortunately, I hope we don't have to, but
Right.
So what is the plan for, I don't think we should present 3 different scenarios, I'm going to be honest, to the board next Wednesday.
So if that's the case, we have to meet before then. We have no choice.
I mean,
What, I don't understand why we can't just discuss it and create scenarios ourselves. We don't have to present scenarios, and we can discuss and create a scenario or what we feel, based on what's been presented, or, what we feel, and we vote on it.
during the board meeting, you're saying?
Correct. Like what was presented tonight is not the be all end all. I mean, that's our
Agreed.
decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I don't think we have to have proposals for Wednesday.
The reason why I said the scenario-based, Caroline, was just it kind of just lays out for everyone to see very neatly, and just to give everyone an idea of where we are, where we're standing, because like you said, it is not the end all be all. You're right, none of them are. So I don't know. I'd like to show the options.
no. And I think we're going to, start to see, parents start to weigh in a little bit, right? I mean,
That's good, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, that is good.
Okay. So do we have any more discussion we want to have this evening? Or do we all have a lot to think about right now in the moment?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Okay. So then hopping back over to the agenda, do we have any other miscellaneous discussion for this evening?
I do not know. I don't have anything.
Okay. Are we ready to adjourn for tonight, for now?
Can I just clarify if there is to be a meeting warned for next Tuesday, like anytime before Wednesday, somebody will let us know tomorrow morning, right? Okay, thank you.
yeah,
We
I
just
mean,
have a 1 o'clock cutoff for tomorrow. That's all.
guys, what are your thoughts? Just bring it to Wednesday and talk about it, or?
Well, Caroline, if you don't want to do, we don't have to do it that way either, because you said you're not comfortable with the 3 scenarios. So if they're presenting it like that, it is something that we can discuss, before the meeting. But if we want to set it up, we have to just let them know before tomorrow, before 1 o'clock tomorrow, I should say.
Let me think about it.
I think if we don't have to rush, so I don't think there's sense of.
Yeah, I don't want to rush either. I'm with you 100%.
I feel very accountable to the deadline of the month right at the moment.
Right.
So that's all.
Yeah, and we don't know everybody's, availability for Tuesday too. So there's
Right.
nothing wrong with us deliberating on Wednesday in public at the meeting, and then we'll schedule a special meeting that night, for what day we want.
Okay.
And that the agenda item would just be to finalize our proposal, for the budget.
Okay. I'm aligned to that. Okay. All right. I'm going to call it tonight at 8:02. And thank you all again for everything that you've put together, all the discussions behind the scenes, and the many more to come, I think, in the next 2 weeks here.
All right. Have a good night.
All right,
guys.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.